Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to take a look at a very simple but still interesting question with a surprisingly complex, albeit hypothetical answer. How would Albedo's child from Ainz Ooal Gown look like? What could it do? And what would its strengths and weaknesses be? At least in my imagination. But before we're going to do so, let me thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as all users of the YouTube thanks function who made one-time donations. And with that said, let's dive into the question. Now, first and foremost, we will take a look at what if the kid is a girl and what if it is a boy, because I have prepared two different answers depending on whom's character build is more dominant. And we will start with the first scenario. Ainz Ooal Gown has not only grown a pair, but also a nice spear. As far as Albedo might be concerned, in any way it is truly strong and powerful enough to pierce her armor where it matters, and therefore Ainz gets to experience the joy of fatherhood after experiencing the joy of a pregnancy affected Albedo. And the first kid, a girl, well, let's make them twins just to keep things balanced, is an angel of death. Basically a beautiful undead with the most malevolent and life-eating powers, destruction given form, a being of pure shadow, a puppeteer tying everything into a web of strings and intrigues, in order to being able to feed on them and on their life itself. And she takes more after her father in terms of abilities and powers, with the bodily appearance and some strength of her mother. And while Ainz Ooal Gown's daughter is, to put it mildly, a bit over-enjoying the more cruel aspects of the tomb, her twin brother is far more humane than his brutish and deadly appearance would let on. So let's get over her character sheet in order to explain her abilities. First and foremost, if Ainz Ooal Gown is the Sorcerer King and the leader of the Supreme Beings, Ainz Ooal Gown's daughter should also be a princess of Nazarick and a princess of the Sorcerer Kingdom. And since she has her mother's wings, Ainz named her Lilith, after some sort of Mesopotamian character that was also associated with birds and flight, as far as Ainz Ooal Gown could recall Tabula Smaragdina's explanation. Albedo's creator. As an angel of death and daughter of Ainz and Albedo, she currently resides at the Two Towers on the Cuts Plain, a place Ainz Ooal Gown built together with the Grey Tomb's inhabitants as a basically non-connected extension and in the image of Nazarick. The Two Towers are great Gothic-looking buildings, evoking the image of a very broad and massive, yet elegant bell tower. And yes, indeed, on the very top of each sits an accursed bell, adorned with 42 vertically and 56 horizontally sitting arcane runes. Each bell sounds the mobilization of the personal legions of each of the twins. And each tower is filled with 9 floors and located behind 4 separate walls, encompassing an area of 49 acres, where the death coaches ride, bringing supplies and materials from and to the 2 towers. Ainz himself said that they each have 12 monsters inside of them, who act as guardians, that, combined, would also rival the strength and the power of the floor guardians themselves. Each will lead one of the 24 legions stationed at the Cuts Plain, who fight a continuous war, or rather exercise, against the natural spawning undead of the plane. And with that said, let's get to the character build of Lilith. She is an angel of death, and her abilities are all centered around tapping into the life force of others in order to strengthen herself and her weapons. While Imp is just her base level, the first really interesting racial level of hers is Life Eater. It contains various powers to absorb and manipulate life energy. Like her father, she is also able to use her own version of negative energy touch, called Life Eater Touch. And rather than inflicting all kinds of stat penalties, Lilith is able to not only heal herself by it, but also to fuel herself and her abilities with the energy absorbed, something extremely useful to her. Next in line, we have the thing that needs fueling, her 5 levels, an Angel of Despair, the equivalent to Ainz Ooal Gown's Eclipse class. Here Lilith can use her own MP, the MP of others, or even her own health, or the health, preferably the health of others, to form ethereal sights that are considered magical weapons and scale with the magical attack stats of Lilith, which is already considerable and can also be boosted, though it is not as high as that of Ainz. And the main reason why these weapons are so deadly is because if HP is added to the mix, they not only gain strength, but the scythe can also inflict physical damage for a certain time. Thus Lilith has the means to inflict high physical and high magical attacks, in addition to bolster her own stats. For example, she could overmax her mana bar, just like Ainz Ooal Gown, if she wants to save the life force of others for later, or boost her mediocre agility to levels beyond that of Shelty instead. Now aside from all of that, Lilith has caster classes that also allow her to use more conventional spells like True Dark, and she has 5 Auras of Despair, just like her father, though in contrast to Ainz, Lilith likes to have the first active if she can. Her job levels are among others Abyssbringer, and yes, this is a Dark Soul reference, which contains all different dark type themed attacks, as well as some insta-death augmentations that Lilith can cast regularly upon her weapons, while Death Size contains all manners of skills and abilities to enhance her effectiveness with her scythe. And yes, this is a Soul Eater reference. As far as stats go, her HP should be a bit higher than that of Ainz, and a bit lower than that of Albedo. Since Lilith is also still her own being, I also found it very strange if she would just be a middle thing between Ainz and Albedo all the time. So I really lowered her physical attack, since due to her wanting since her earliest childhood days to fight like her father, she created her magical attack weapons instead of learning physical combat. But still using these metaphysical weapons required physical training, which much to her mother's delight led her to develop a mix between Ainz Ooal Gown's magical powers and the melee attacks of her mother. Her physical defense isn't as good as Albedo's or even that of Ainz either, though in combination with a higher HP, she still can tank some damage, even without relying on her Life Eater abilities. Her agility is mediocre if left unfueled, but once magic is added to this attribute, it scales the fastest. Next we have Lilith's unquestionable strength, her high magic attack and even higher magical defense. She combines the best assets of her parents within these two stats, and they form the base of Lilith's combat abilities. Her resistance in turn is rather mediocre, since she also relies on her MP to raise it if it is required, or to heal any negative effects that was inflicted upon her by others. And lastly, her special abilities and powers are maxed out. If she touches a beautiful meadow, it would wither and die in an instant. Like the evil sealed tree her father thought, Lilith can absorb the life force of half a forest if the situation would require it. Lastly, a few personal anecdotes of hers. Lilith likes to absorb the life force of her friends in order to understand them better, but never to any dangerous levels. She is a gifted chess player and battle tactician, something she learned from Demiurge and Rennar, and she dreams of conquering the last continent not yet under the rule of the great tomb of Nazarick, together with her twin brother, in order to turn him more evil. Personality-wise, she tended to be babysitted by the Pleiades, Solution, Naberal, Lupus Regina, and Entoma, when her parents were gone, and they might have left their impression on Lilith as well. So basically, this is my take on the abilities, skills, and stat of Ainz Ooal Gown's hypothetical daughter, if he ever decides to have one. And now it's your turn. Do you agree with my little character build here, or do you think she should be different? Let me know down in the comment section. And next time we will take a look at how I imagine her brother would be, what skills he would have, and how he would define and even contrast himself with Lilith. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Bad Guy Yee, Ben C, Chrissy, Crowley0221, Sia, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Dystopia II, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, Chromius, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Mervek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantom, Personage, Primus 11, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, and Zonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.